Captain Kim Tae rubbed his tired eyes as the holographic text continued scrolling in front of him. The symbols glowed blue in 17 different languages, each one carefully explaining why no sentient being could eat more than half a cup of fermented vegetables per day in diplomatic zones. He had been sitting in this white metal chair for 3 full days, and his back hurt. Commander Parkman sat next to him, trying not to yawn. She counted the empty coffee cups on the small table. Between them, 14 cups. The Federation had very good coffee, but even good coffee could not make boring laws interesting after 70 hours. Ambassador Velthax stood at the front of the pristine chamber, his forearms moving in careful patterns as he spoke. His blue skin shimmered under the bright lights, and his voice never changed tone. He had been reading laws for 3 days straight without stopping for food or water. Parkman wondered if his species ever got tired. Galactic Law number 8421, Velthot continued in his mechanical voice. No spacecraft shall paint their hull in colors that might confuse emergency responders. Acceptable colors include white, silver, and approved shades of blue. Unacceptable colors include red, yellow, orange, purple, pink, and any color that changes based on viewing angle. Tae wrote something on his electronic notepad. Min tried to see what he was writing, but he quickly covered the screen. She caught a glimpse of what looked like a drawing of a stick figure riding a bicycle. Dr. Lee Su sat in the back row with the rest of the human delegation. She had brought a small bag of sunflower seeds and was quietly eating them one by one. The crunching sound was the only noise in the room besides Velthak's voice. Every few minutes, she would raise her hand to ask a question, but Velthak would politely tell her to wait until the end. The sacred codex was older than human civilization. 50,000 years ago, the first galactic species had written these laws to keep peace among the stars. Every species that joined the Federation learned every single rule. Every species followed them exactly. Every species prospered. Question, Lee Su called out suddenly, raising her hand high. The room went completely silent. Velthak stopped mid-sentence, his mouth still open. His translator device made a small buzzing sound, like a confused insect. The honored human may speak, Velthak said slowly. He looked nervous. Is there a shorter version? Maybe just the important parts. The silence stretched longer. Parkman could hear her own heartbeat. In the 50,000 years since the Federation began, no species had ever asked for a summary. The laws were perfect. They were complete. They were all equally important. I do not understand this request, Velthak said carefully. Tae stood up and stretched his arms above his head. His joints made small popping sounds. What my colleague means is, do you have the main points? The big rules that really matter. All laws matter equally, Velthak replied, but his voice shook slightly. Right, but some must be more important than others, Parkman added. Like the rule about not destroying planets is probably more important than the rule about what color to paint spaceships. 3 of Velthak's 4 hands began moving in what looked like nervous gestures. His aide, a thin creature with green skin, whispered something urgent in his ear. The codex is complete, Velthak said. Each law serves a purpose. Each law prevents chaos. I am sure they do, Tae said kindly. We humans appreciate rules. We really do. But we also have a saying back on Earth. The best rules are the ones that make sense to everyone. Lee Su stood up and walked to the front of the room. Could we maybe take copies of these laws, read them ourselves? We learn better when we can study things at our own speed. Velthek looked like someone had asked him to juggle fire while standing on his head. Take ... copies. To read later, Parkman explained, so we can understand them properly. No species has ever. Velthak started, then stopped. His aide whispered more urgently. That sounds great, Tae said cheerfully. We will study these carefully and make sure we follow them all. Thank you for the excellent presentation. The human delegation began filing out of the chamber. Tae shook Velthak's hand with both of his own hands. Really appreciate the hospitality. The coffee was fantastic. As the humans left, Min heard Velthak speaking rapidly into a small communication device. She caught a few words in Galactic, Standard, Emergency. Humans want to ... read the rules. THEMSELVES, send help. Walking down the long white corridor toward their ship, Lee Su opened her bag of sunflower seeds again. Think we broke something? Probably, Tae replied, still smiling. But that is what humans do best. Parkman looked back at the chamber where Velthak was still talking frantically into his communicator. Should we be worried? Nah, Tae said. Rules are meant to be understood, not just memorized. We will figure this out. They walked back to their small ship, carrying copies of 12,847 galactic laws. None of them knew that in 3 months, they would change how the galaxy worked forever. 3 months after the humans took their copies of the Galactic Codex, Ambassador Velthak sat at his desk, staring at a pile of reports. Each report made less sense than the one before it. His 4 hands shook slightly as he picked up the first document. Crimter, he called to his aide. Explain this to me again. The green-skinned assistant cleared his throat nervously. The humans have established 17 new colonies. Sir, in systems that cannot support life, Velthok said slowly. Correct, sir, but they are not breaking any laws. Velthok rubbed his temples with two of his hands. How is that possible? They say they are not terraforming, they call it aggressive gardening. Aggressive gardening? Yes, sir. When we asked Administrator Hongyu about it, she showed us Galactic Law 840. It says terraforming requires a 500-year environmental study, but it says nothing about improving soil while visiting. Velthok looked at the pictures attached to the report. Desert planets now had green fields, frozen worlds had flowing water, toxic atmospheres had become breathable. This is terraforming, he said weakly. No, sir. According to the humans, they are just making small improvements while they visit. They plant some seeds here, adjust the atmosphere a little there. They call it being good neighbors. The next report was about human spaceships. Velthok had watched their vessels appear throughout the galaxy, moving faster than anything he had ever seen. The speed limit, he said hopefully. Surely they broke the speed limit. No, sir. Galactic Law 1205 forbids traveling faster than 0.97 light speed. Human ships never exceed that speed. Then how are they moving so fast? They fold space instead of moving through it. Captain Kim Tae calls it creative transportation solutions. Technically, the ship stays still while space moves around it. Velthok made a note to increase his medical insurance. His species had evolved for hands specifically to handle stress better, but it was not working. The third report made his head hurt worse. Tell me about the diplomatic dinner. Krimpter looked uncomfortable. Human diplomat Yoon Ben attended the formal galactic peace celebration last night, and he wore shorts and sandals. To a formal diplomatic function. Yes, sir, and a shirt with small earth animals wearing tiny neck decorations. When confronted, he cited Galactic Law 2156 about appropriate formal dress. Velthok knew that law well. It required formal attire, appropriate to cultural standards. How did he justify casual clothing as formal? He said humans consider comfort the highest form of respect, therefore, comfortable clothing is their most formal attire. He brought a written statement from Earth's Department of Cultural Affairs confirming this. A written statement. 3 pages, sir, with official seals, and everything. Velthok moved to the next report, dreading what he would find. The weapons incident. The humans have developed what they call agricultural implements for their colonies in neutral zones, which are actually weapons. Plasma cannons. Yes, sir, but they insist these are farming tools. They demonstrated how efficiently they can clear vegetation from large areas. Technically, they are not weapons if they are used for farming, but they could easily be used in combat. Administrator Hongyi. He says that is not their intended purpose. She calls it aggressive landscaping equipment. Velthok stood up and walked to his window. Outside, he could see human ships docked at the Federation station. They were painted in bright colors that somehow did not violate any laws. One ship was covered in pictures of earth flowers. Another had geometric patterns that seemed to move when you looked at them. Sir, Krimpter said quietly, there is more. More. The humans have opened what they call a consultation service. 17 species have hired them to review their own legal interpretations. They are teaching other species to break laws. No, sir, they are teaching them to read laws more carefully. Yesterday, the Thraxians discovered they could expand their trade routes by 300% using human interpretation methods. What methods? The humans told them that Galactic Law 4429 forbids establishing permanent trade stations in neutral space. But it says nothing about temporary stations that just happen to stay in the same place for a very long time. Velthok sat down heavily. Get me a meeting with the Federation Council. Yes, sir. What should I tell them the meeting is about? Tell them we have a problem. The humans are following every law perfectly, and it is chaos. As Krimpter left the office, Velthok picked up the final report. It was a request from 5 different species asking for copies of human legal interpretation guides. The humans had written them in simple language that anyone could understand. The title of the most popular guide made Velthok groan. Rules are suggestions. A beginner's guide to creative legal thinking. He reached for his emergency medication. Cabinet, it was going to be a very long day. The emergency alarm in the Federation Council chamber had not sounded in 47 years. Council member Ketham dropped his morning tea as the red lights flashed and sirens wailed through the ancient hall's report. He commanded, his tentacles trembling slightly. The Korthak Syndicate has launched their largest offensive in 3 centuries. His aide announced breathlessly. They have attacked 14 systems simultaneously. Qethum nodded grimly. The Korthak had terrorized the galaxy for 3,000 years. Everyone knew the proper response. It was written clearly in the emergency protocol manual. Form committees, invoke ancient treaties, send diplomatic protests, and wait for unanimous agreement from all 847 Federation species. Begin emergency protocol, sequence 1, Ketham ordered. Contact all species representatives. Schedule emergency committee formation meetings for next week. Sir, the aide said nervously. 3 of the attack's systems were human colonies. Before Ketham could respond, the chamber doors burst open. Captain Kim Tae marched in wearing what looked like military gear, but his uniform had a small patch reading, Neighborhood Watch Coordinator. Behind him, Commander Park Min and Dr. Lee Soo followed, both carrying strange devices. Where is the emergency response? Tae demanded, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. Captain Tae, Ketham said carefully, the emergency committee will begin forming next week. We must follow proper procedures. Next week, Park Min looked incredulous. The pirates hit our colonies 6 hours ago. They took civilians, children. The Galactic Emergency Response Protocol requires careful consideration, Ketham explained patiently. We must form committees, review options, and achieve unanimous agreement before taking action. This process typically takes 12 to 18 months. 18 months, Lee Soo stepped forward. People are dying right now. The procedures exist for good reasons, Council Member Thrixel added from across the chamber. Hasty action leads to chaos. We have maintained galactic peace for 50,000 years using these methods. Tae looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives. Some were already pulling out their formal protest templates. Others were scheduling committee meetings on their devices. None seemed concerned about the immediate crisis. Forget your procedures, Tae said firmly. We are implementing immediate pest control measures. Pest control, Ketham's translator device sparked slightly. The Korthak are parasites, Park Min explained. They steal, they kill, they destroy. Where we come from, we deal with parasites, quickly before they spread. But the protocols, Thrixel began. Your protocols are designed for civilized beings, Lee Soo interrupted. These pirates do not follow your rules. Why should we wait 18 months to stop them? Before anyone could object, the human delegation turned and left the chamber. Ketham immediately ordered his staff to monitor all human communications. Within 2 hours, every human vessel in known space had changed course. Military ships, cargo vessels, even small personal craft, all moved with purpose toward Korthak territory. When Federation officials demanded explanations, the humans cheerfully provided them. We are conducting aggressive wildlife management, Captain Tae explained in his official report. Wildlife management, Velthak asked during an emergency video call. Yes, the Korthak are an invasive species disrupting the galactic ecosystem. We are implementing immediate control measures. That sounds like warfare, Velthak protested. Not at all, Park Min replied. We are also running involuntary recycling programs on abandoned Korthak vessels and conducting cultural exchange activities. What kind of cultural exchange? We are broadcasting Earth music to help the pirates understand human values. Lee Soo added, helpfully. The first reports arrived 18 hours later. 3 Korthak raiding fleets had retreated in confusion after human ships somehow interfered with their navigation systems using what the humans called aggressive audio diplomacy. They played music so loudly it damaged our sensor arrays. The Korthak war chief Graxter complained in his transmission to the Federation Council. This is not warfare, this is noise torture. More reports followed. Human ships had appeared throughout Korthak space, always in small groups, always avoiding direct combat. Instead, they used tactics that made no sense to anyone. In Develo's system, humans had turned an asteroid field into a massive kinetic weapon by using gravity manipulation devices. They called it aggressive landscaping. When Korthak ships tried to pursue them, the humans somehow made the asteroids move in ways that blocked every escape route. In the Krella sector, an entire Korthak fleet found their computer systems mysteriously improved after human technicians boarded their ships. The humans called it involuntary technical support. But the pirates discovered their weapons would only fire backwards, and their engines played children's songs. This is impossible, Graxter roared during another transmission. They do not fight like warriors. They fight like humans, Velthak finished quietly. The strangest report came from the human colony on Kepler Prime. When Korthak ground forces landed to take prisoners, the colonists fought back, using improvised weapons and what they termed aggressive cooking techniques. 17 Korthak warriors were hospitalized after eating food that the humans claimed was just a little spicy. Sir Ketham's aide reported, the humans are not technically at war with anyone. What are they doing then? According to their official statements, they are conducting community service projects and neighborhood improvement initiatives. Ketham looked at the tactical display showing human ships throughout Korthak territory. In 72 hours, they had accomplished more than Federation forces had in 3,000 years. His communicator chimed with an incoming message from Captain Tae. Council member Ketham Tae said cheerfully, we have arranged a diplomatic solution to the pirate problem. Traditional single combat. Their champion against ours. Winner takes all. The transmission ended before Ketham could respond. Warchief, Graxer had conquered 47 worlds and crushed every enemy he had ever faced. His massive claws could tear through metal, and his roar made grown warriors flee in terror. But as he stared at the tactical display showing his fleet's positions, something felt very wrong. Report, he growled at his tactical officer, a scarred veteran named Melser. Our third fleet attempted to raid the mining station at Epps. The humans, they moved an entire asteroid field. Moved it how? They used gravity manipulation devices to turn the asteroids into a kinetic bombardment system. When our ships approached, the rocks fired themselves at us like bullets. The humans called it aggressive landscaping. Graxter's mandibles clicked. In frustration, in 3,000 years of raiding, no species had ever weaponized landscape before. What about the Fifth Fleet? Disabled, sir. The humans somehow improved our computer systems. Improved them? Yes, sir. They boarded our ships and used what their leader called percussive maintenance. They hit our computers with hammers until they worked better. That makes no sense. I agree, sir, but now, our weapons only fire backwards, our engines play music from their homeworld, and our navigation systems only give directions to the nearest coffee shop. Graxer slammed his fist on the command console. What about the civilian raids? Unsuccessful, sir. The human colonists fought back using improvised weapons. Settlement 347 defeated our entire landing force. How aggressive. Cooking techniques. Sir, the humans fed our warriors something they called kimchi and claimed it was just a little spicy. We have 17 soldiers in medical bay suffering from what the humans call food poisoning. The warchief studied the reports more carefully. Ships appeared throughout his territory, but they never engaged in direct combat. Instead, they used tactics that seemed designed to confuse rather than destroy. In the Kappa sector, humans had somehow convinced 3 Korthak crews to surrender. By broadcasting what they called motivational speeches, the pirates reported feeling strangely emotional after listening to humans talk about friendship and community cooperation. Sir, the communications officer announced. Incoming transmission from the human fleet commander. The hologram materialized, showing Captain Kim Tae standing on his ship's bridge. Behind him, crew members appeared to be having some kind of social gathering with food and music. They looked relaxed, almost happy. War Chief Graxter Tae said in a conversational tone, "We need to talk. Your people have been bothering our neighbors, and that is not acceptable. You dare challenge the might of the Korthak Syndicate." Graxter roared, "Challenge? No, we prefer to solve problems through discussion. But since you seem to prefer the old ways, we propose traditional single combat, your champion against ours." Graxter's honor code demanded he accept such challenges. It was written in the ancient warrior traditions that no true Korthak could refuse single combat. Very well, human, my strongest warrior, against yours. What are your terms? Simple. Winner takes all. If your champion wins, we leave Korthak space and never return. If our champion wins, you stop raiding innocent people and find something more productive to do with your time. Agreed. Who is your champion? You will meet her at these coordinates in 12 hours. And Graxter, you can choose all the rules. Make it fair for your warrior. The transmission ended. Graxter smiled for the first time in days. No human could possibly defeat Vergath, his personal champion. The massive warrior stood 8 feet tall, had never lost a battle, and could crush steel with his bare hands. 12 hours later, Graxter and his honor guard arrived at the designated coordinates, a small space station in neutral territory. The combat arena was simple, a circular platform 50 meters across, surrounded by energy barriers. Vergath entered the arena wearing full battle armor and carrying his traditional warhammer. The weapon had crushed the skulls of 100 enemies. Then, the human champion entered. She was a small, elderly woman who barely reached Vergath's chest. Her gray hair was tied back neatly, and she wore simple civilian clothes. In her hands, she carried what appeared to be a wooden kitchen tool. "This is a joke," Graxter snarled. "This is Cho-hei," Captain Tae announced proudly. She raised 6 children, managed a restaurant for 30 years, and has never lost an argument with anyone. Vergath looked confused, but raised his warhammer. The elderly human woman smiled politely and adjusted her grip on her wooden tool. "Begin," Graxter commanded. What happened next would be discussed in warrior academies for generations. Cho-hei moved with surprising speed, ducking under Vergath's first swing and somehow getting behind him. She used her wooden tool to strike precise points on his armor, and each hit seemed to disable a different joint. "This is called aggressive grandmother technique," she explained calmly as Vergath stumbled. "On Earth, we use it when children misbehave." Within 5 minutes, the mighty Korthak champion was on the ground, thoroughly defeated by what Cho-hei later described as basic household management skills. How Graxter whispered, "Your warrior fights with anger." Cho-hei said kindly, "Anger makes you stupid. I fight with experience. Experience wins." As medical teams helped Vergath to his feet, Graxter realized something important. His 3,000-year reign of terror was over. Ended by a grandmother with a rolling pin. Captain Tae approached with a datapad. Now, about those more productive activities we mentioned. 6 months after what human historians insisted on calling the Great Neighborhood Cleanup, Ambassador Velthak sat in his office reading reports that seemed to come from a different galaxy entirely. Piracy was down 94%. The Korthak Syndicate had been completely dismantled, their former warriors now attending what humans called career counseling sessions on various Federation worlds. Most surprising of all, many expirates had found jobs in construction and engineering, using their demolition skills for building instead of destroying. Sir, his aide Krimpter announced, entering with another stack of documents, the quarterly trade dispute report. Velthak opened the file carefully. 3 months ago, the Zalani Empire and the Thraxian Republic had been locked in a border conflict that had lasted 200 years. Neither side would compromise, and Federation mediators had given up hope. What happened here? Velthak asked, staring at the resolution document. The humans intervened, Krimpter explained. Dr. Li Su invited both sides to what she called an aggressive mediation session, which involved what, exactly? A barbecue, sir, and something called a karaoke competition. Apparently, after the Zalani ambassador sang a traditional Thraxian song and the Thraxian minister tried cooking Zalani food, they discovered they had more in common than they thought. They resolved a 200-year conflict over dinner and singing. Yes, sir. They signed the peace treaty during dessert. Both sides agreed to share the disputed territory and establish a joint cultural exchange program. Velthak moved to the next report. The Vorthan trade crisis had been resolved when humans suggested that instead of fighting over shipping routes, the competing species should share them and split the profits. The solution was so simple that everyone wondered why no one had thought of it before. Sir Krimpter said nervously, "There is something else. The Federation Council has voted to accept humanity's membership proposal." They what? All 847 species agreed unanimously. The vote was held yesterday during what the humans called a potluck dinner. Apparently, everyone was in a very good mood after trying Earth food. Velthak's communicator chimed, indicating an incoming transmission. The hologram showed Dr. Li Su, now wearing an official Federation Council badge. Behind her, the ancient council chambers looked completely different. The sterile white walls had been painted in warm colors and decorated with artwork from dozens of different worlds. Comfortable chairs had replaced the formal ceremonial seats. Most shocking of all, someone had installed what appeared to be a food preparation area in the corner. Ambassador Velthaki, Li Su said cheerfully. Congratulations. The council voted to implement humanity's suggestions for improving galactic governance. What suggestions? First, all council meetings will now include regular breaks for food and social interaction. We found that people make better decisions when they are comfortable and well-fed. That seems logical, Velthak admitted reluctantly. Second, we are implementing the 5-year-old rule. Any new law or policy must be simple enough that a child can understand it. If you cannot explain something to a 5-year-old, it is probably too complicated to be useful. But the complexity of galactic governance is mostly artificial. Li Su interrupted gently. We reviewed the entire codex and found that 8,000 of the laws basically say the same thing. Be nice to each other and do not break other people's stuff. Velthak felt dizzy. What about the other 4,847 laws? Most of them were solving problems that no longer exist. We kept the important ones and turned the rest into suggestions instead of requirements. Suggestions, guidelines, recommendations, ways to think about problems instead of rigid rules to follow. The transmission continued with Li Su explaining other changes. The Federation would now encourage creative problem-solving instead of strict rule-following. Species would be rewarded for finding new solutions to old problems. Most importantly, the new motto would be, make it work, not make it perfect. But Ambassador, Velthak said weakly, what about order? What about stability? What about the way things have always been done? What about making things better? Li Su replied, the galaxy has been stable for 50,000 years, but stable is not the same as good. People were still suffering, conflicts were still happening, and problems were not getting solved. After the transmission ended, Velthak walked to his window and looked out at the Federation station. Human ships moved between the docking bays, their colorful hulls bright against the dark space. He could see crew members from different species working together, sharing meals, even playing games during their breaks. Sir Krimpter said quietly, what do you think of the changes? Velthak watched a group of young Federation officers, humans, and aliens together, laughing as they worked on repairing a damaged transport ship. 6 months ago, such casual interaction between species would have been unthinkable. Krimpter, he said finally, do you know what the strangest thing is? What? Sir, it is working. All of it. The humans broke every rule we had, and somehow made everything better. His aide nodded. The humans have a saying. Sir, rules are meant to serve people, not the other way around. On his desk, a new plaque had appeared overnight, written in both Galactic Standard and Korean characters. It read, the galaxy had rules and humans showed us there were better ways. For the first time in 50,000 years, the galaxy was learning to laugh.